What's up, my friends? How's everybody doing today? My name is Carpo. As usual, my introduction. This video will be about the bullshit artist versus the liar, or lying versus bullshit. And it's something I've been thinking a bit about lately, and, well, I'll just start off with what I consider to be some important values of humans. Now, I was raised with morals, okay? Now, no matter how much your parents try to instill morals and values within you, you're still going to learn on your own. But you're going to pick up a lot of that from the people around you. And as we get older, we can obviously learn that some of our morals are maybe a little overbearing, or maybe not as useful, and others maybe we don't have enough of. But there's only a few that I really have held on to, the things that I've carried in my life that I find to be very important. And those, in a nutshell, are: don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, and don't bully. Now, following those four basic rules for me, there are several other things that you do and don't want to do in life. Obviously, a lot of these things will affect you as an individual. These are the four things I think that mostly affect us, or I should say, how we affect other people. When you lie, it can affect other people. Obviously, it can affect you more if it's a little lie, and it doesn't matter if it's something irrelevant. But cheating harms everyone. Now, I have a very strong... I despise cheaters. It's as bad as stealing to me. It's so bad for me that I have never cheated on a game. I can't cheat. Like, I just would rather lose than cheat. And cheating to me is something that is completely against one of the most basic, fundamental human values. But on the same time, on the same note, I also realize that that's a man-made value. Animals lie. They fool other animals. They dress like other animals. They disguise themselves to protect themselves in nature. Yes, of course. In the animal kingdom, there's plenty of lying and fooling going on out there, and cheating, and stealing other people's stuff, and bullying. But it's usually for the sake of gaining more for the self. Now, if a person wants to gain something in this world, and they don't want to work for it, it's easy to take advantage of someone else by lying to them about the reason why you're taking a loan. Or I could go on about the different, but I think everybody knows exactly where I'm coming from, that these basic values harm other people. But the real difference, I wanted to get down to the lying aspect of it, is that I watched a clip this morning, I can't remember who it was, but he mentioned this, that the difference between a liar and a bullshit artist. Whereas a liar is a person who has formulated lies. In other words, they know that they're going to lie about something. They make it a particular point to lie, to either preserve their self, to preserve finances, to preserve their peers, the way they look at it, or their self-esteem, whatever it might be. But a lie is usually a pre-planned type thing, and it's something that's consistently lied about. Whereas bullshit is an art form, and that's why the term bullshit artist exists. Because it truly is an art form. It's something that a person has to work into and become, right? Anyone can lie. Not anyone can be a bullshit artist. If I tried to bullshit you, you would probably know. I am not a good liar, and I'm sure all of you know a person who doesn't lie, and when they do lie, you can always tell, whether it be a twitch or something they do. And you can watch several shows about the various behaviors and things people do when they're lying, because they're anxious about the fact that they're lying. Whereas bullshit artists, they don't have any of that. They have created a delusion within their mind that they can perpetuate. And they are able to come up with ideas right on the spot, whether it be deflection to what the other person is saying if they feel cornered, or if it may be to create a fallacy about that, or a story that's something that doesn't exist. Now, fallacies, I think, are really important for all of us to learn. If you're not aware of what a fallacy is, because I know most people have heard the term, but even a few years back, I remember I wasn't quite sure about the definition of a fallacy, and there are several different kinds of fallacies. There is the ad hominem attack, which is the most common. Now, this is where you're having a discussion with someone, and then you disagree with, everything's going civil until you disagree with something they're saying, and then instantly they attack you. And I guess that's most YouTubers have had that experience. If you talk about something controversial, a person will, you may say, I disagree with a political view, and a person would say, oh, that's because you're a stoner or a dumb liberal hippie, and they might do the same thing. That's to another person who's a conservative. Oh, that's because you're just a stuck-up conservative, or because you're rich, or because you're poor, or because you're Mexican, white. It's generalizing, and it's a fallacy. And generalization is a fallacy in itself, because we use this, let's say you take a statistic out of context, and you say, oh, this many crimes were committed by immigrants last year. But then when you look at the actual amounts compared to, let's say, citizens, you find that, for example, immigrant crime in this country is about 250 per 100,000 people for immigrants, but about 850 per 100,000 people for citizens. So it's 3 times higher for us. But it's easy to just throw out the number of this many people were killed by illegal immigrants last year. And that's just one example of many that many people use. And I'm not trying to use this as a way to poke at the current political paradigm, but rather this is something I face in everyday life. We meet it from everyone we meet. We have to decide and vet them to see whether or not they're an honest person. And honesty seems to be one of those biggest parts of being a human with integrity. And once we get to know a person, we can trust a person. There's nothing greater than having a friend that you can leave money with or let stay at your house that you can trust 100%. If you don't trust someone 100%, it makes it very tough to consider them a friend. And it's even more difficult to trust people that we've never met, that we're only seeing on the television. How can you put trust in someone that you've never personally met, that all you're hearing is secondhand information or what they're saying? And then if they're a bullshit artist, then it's easy for them to say anything they want. And it makes it really tough for the average person to know who to trust. And since I've already mentioned politics, it creates what we have right now in the U.S. with this idea that, well, all politicians are corrupt, so I'm voting for no one, or I'm voting for some other candidate, or I'm writing someone in, or, well, all politicians are crooked. Actually, the other day I saw, it was a panel on the Bill Maher show. I know Bill Maher is very biased towards his own opinions, I realize that. And no, I'm not a big Maher fan. I find him to be actually pretty annoying in a lot of regards. But this particular little clip, they were talking about that. There was 4 of them, and they were talking about the idea that let me think of how to word it. I never stopped talking, so I might as well take a break right here. It's on the wrong setting. They were talking about how things are oversimplified, and how we go on one particular thing that someone did, and then we use that to derive all the rest of our conclusions. If we see that things aren't going our way in this country, then a lot of people throw in the towel, and I cannot blame a coal miner for being upset that the jobs are going away. And I can see why a coal miner would blame immigrants by saying, well, they're taking jobs that we could be using, or, trying to perpetuate an old way that is changing. And we as humans, we do deserve to protect ourselves, and that's self-preservation in a person's mind. But there are a lot of people out there who are voting or not voting merely because they see the system is screwed up. And in fact, I've heard people use the excuse of voting for Donald Trump as saying, well, it's because he's different and, we're sick of the same old politics. Whereas everyone in the country is sick of the same old politics. All of us. It's just that looking a little more crucially. carefully at the issue, we find that there are no real plans to get around that. Politics are complicated. The decisions people make are complicated. So not everyone is a liar, but a lot of people have to bullshit. If you're in politics, you have to bullshit. Unfortunately, there are a lot of good politicians out there that are changing changing the rules and regulations in their state to benefit the people. For those of you who live in Florida, you know, the governor down there, I don't remember his name, he was elected in under the premise that he would be a good candidate for the leadership of a state which is looking to be partially underwater in the next 100 years, and that has a very high percentage of elderly people that need health care. And this is a man who made cuts to Social Security, that wants to make cuts to Medicare and Medicaid that can help people in his own state. And also, he refuses to talk about global warming. It's not an issue. It doesn't exist. A lot of people really live this way. There are several politicians out there who refuse to talk about global warming. It's a non-issue to them. And here it is, the governor of a state that will be suffering from this. And in 50 years from now, when we look back and say, damn it, you know, why didn't we listen? You know, and the global warming issue isn't just about, oh, we have to just stop burning fossil fuels tomorrow. That's not what anybody's saying. We're saying we need to move forward into greener ways. Certain candidates want to drill more. Actually, Trump wants to open up federal lands to drilling and oil and fracking gas. Federal lands, which means that most likely we'll be opening the national parks like that crazy bitch up in Alaska wanted to do. Drilling in national parks is something I can see in the future. Of course, it will be for the protection and the safety. But it's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's short-term gain at a long-term cost. And this is why people are frustrated. This is why people don't know where to turn, and they just throw up their hands and say, screw it, all politicians are crooked. But there aren't. Because in some states, they've voted in people who have actually made changes, made differences, and fought for the rights of the people. So I just want to leave, I didn't want this video to turn political. I just wanted it to be about, about the issue of lying versus bullshit. But this is a very crucial time in my country. And in the next few weeks, we're going to be voting for who we find to be the most valid representation of our country and who we are. Now, first off, we know neither candidate can go out and start wars, stop wars, do anything to the people. Neither one of these leaders, a lot of people don't seem to realize the president can't just make an order and fuck the world up. They go through Congress, and thank God we have a Congress, but at the same time, sometimes it sucks. When they refuse or they go against or veto every single thing that, a president wants to do, like they did with Obama. And now Obama's become this enemy, and everybody's saying, it was Obama's war. Obama's war. Look, I lived through George Bush declaring war on the Middle East, okay? I lived through this. I watched this. I watched it unfold. And Obama had to mop up the mess, and he was left with the blame. Why is the national debt running into the trillions? Because we had a lot of money invested in these things, and now we're losing our asses on it. Trump wants to build our military up with 1,200 new fighter jets and 40 new Navy ships. Now, I don't know if you're aware of how much a Navy ship costs or a fighter jet, but let's just say combined, both of these will be well in the trillions, okay? Trillions of dollars just to boost these two parts of the military. And there's a whole list on his website about the things that he wants to change. I spent about an hour yesterday on the Donald Trump website going through all his issues, all his claims. And on a couple of them, he spent twice as much time on the list talking about what's wrong with Clinton than his little, section where he talked about what he was going to do. But every one of them I tried to have an open mind. And it said things like, well, we've got big plans for this, or we're going to have some extreme plan for this. A couple of particular words that he uses over and over that don't tell me anything. And it's a bullshit artist webpage is what it is. It's the perfect example of bullshit art. And there are a lot of people who are falling for it. Very intelligent people, too. There was a time, I'll be honest, at the beginning where I thought that most Trump supporters were just dumb. But I know better. I know that they're not. I know that they're just marginalized. They tend to fit a particular demographic, which I won't go into detail, but many people who have had a rough time or lost their jobs are likely to vote for Trump because he says, I'm going to bring back jobs. I looked at his whole page to see what was his plan for bringing back jobs. Well, there isn't one. He's talking about opening up more trade for bigger companies and thinking that, working on this trickle-down effect, it's bullshit. And he also, besides, the one thing that really got me, I think, was he said that he's going to pay for these things by collecting unpaid taxes. So he's going to use this money he collects, supposedly, people are going to just all of a sudden just pay their unpaid taxes. We know that doesn't work. There may be a payment plan, but the average person who owes taxes is a person, because corporations are always outside of the realm when they're large enough. They have offshore companies and labor. The smaller guys are the ones that suffer. They have the hard time with taxes. And so if you want to collect taxes to buy more military weapons so we can have more army out there, it's going to cost more in the long run. So the two issues with this country are the economy. People are talking about now nuclear war. They say, well, if Trump doesn't win, we're going to have a nuclear war because Hillary's going to declare war. And that's complete nonsense. I'm sorry, Hillary is not perfect. She's far from it. But she's not going to declare war. It's just lunacy. And then Putin posted something the other day where he said if Donald Trump isn't elected, then the U.S. will face nuclear war. Of course, that's just propaganda too. And as well as he called all the Russian people home from abroad, as another propaganda technique for, saying that they should educate themselves in the motherland. This world has a lot of fucked up issues, it's true. And a lot of things we need to work out. But we can't just oversimplify it by believing bullshit. It's very easy for our parents when we're young to blow us off when we ask a question by giving us some bullshit answer. I make it a point not to do that with my kids and be honest if I don't know something. Because I've learned as an adult, as a man, that being responsible means being culpable for what you do. It means your actions are always monitored by yourself and others. And a person who doesn't have control over that part of themselves is a loose cannon and a threat to society and themselves. And that's why I find bullshitting to be one of the most threatening things that a person can possess. One of the worst traits that a person can possess. Over everything they say or claim or in their history, a person who is bullshitting, on top of that having no apparent empathy, makes for a very difficult situation when you have people running for office that are both completely fucked up. And in this case, I'm not going to go into detail about what I'm going to vote on. I'm still figuring this out. I mean, it's not about voting. I'm not telling you to vote for anybody. I don't do that. That's silly. But make a best decision, a best informed decision. If you have a strong view on either political candidate, I urge you to go to both of their websites and spend the time. And especially go to the opposing person's website. You may think if you're a Trump supporter, you may think you already know what his issues are. But if you haven't gone to the Trump website and you're supporting him, then shame on you. That's all I can say. And shame to the Hillary supporters if they're not actually admitting that she's made a lot of mistakes, that she's screwed up and put money in places where it shouldn't be and made bad decisions. The difference is that she's been a politician for a long time, and people are bound to make mistakes. You got to remember that we are human, and we do have failures in life, and we do make bad choices. But the question is, do the people we're electing, do they really have anyone at all's, future in mind? And there are things that Clinton has done in the past to help the future and to help the kids and working with autism. Whereas Trump has done absolutely nothing. He's just made more money. And when asked about the U.S. taxes that he claims he's going to collect on from all the unpaid taxes, he claims that he didn't pay his federal taxes because he was smart. Now you gotta realize these taxes that he didn't pay are the taxes that pay for things like his garbage service, that pay for protection, police, and things that help Donald Trump. All these things are paid for by you, not by him, because he didn't pay into his taxes. taking $1 billion loss one year to cover your ass. You know, there is nothing that this man possesses to show that he's stable. He hasn't even been able to hang on to his money. And he hasn't been able to hang on to his wives either, which, you know, there's something to be said about a person who has to marry a mail-order bride. You know, it's control. He wants control. And the same reason why they signed the prenup. I just, you know, it must really suck to be that rich and to be that ignorant and to have that many people believing your bullshit. I should say it wouldn't suck for him. It sucks for the rest of us, because ultimately we all want the same end. And my belief is that those 4 traits that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, lying, cheating, you know, honesty, bullying, he does all of them. Donald J. Trump breathes these 4 attributes. Everything he does exudes the 4 things that I really hate the most about a person. And that's why I will not be voting for Donald Trump. So, I wish you all the best, and damn it, turned into another political video, but hey, gotta make them while I can. It's on my mind, and it should be on your mind too if you live here, because it is a problem. And there are good politicians out there that we can try to get into office. And if you really want to make a difference, stop griping about the way who's going to be president, and vote people into Congress who have your best interests at heart. Americans are finally starting to realize how this system really works. Many of us were guilty of not understanding the electorate college until the last vote, when George Bush won, because the American citizens voted against him, but he won because of the electoral college. And now we understand a lot more about how these things work because of the internet and people sharing. And I think that in the next few years we'll be able to make a big impact. I really do think that things are going to change for the better. Or maybe we'll get nuked tomorrow. Who knows? What the fuck? What do you do, right?